I went over 153 Western Carolina Mercer, over 153 Western Carolina Mercer, good all the way up to 154. I said, I always write parameters on what it's a 3% up to. A couple more plays in that game. We also bet 857 Western Carolina plus 6.5 and plus 6. A couple conference tournament for yous. In Summit League, 865 over 164 South Dakota, North Dakota State. Big South Conference, 306 508 Winthrop minus the 4. Coastal Athletic Conference, 853 Stony Brook plus the 7. Let's get to, where else can I get? 828 Western Michigan Bowling Green under 144.5, and one more Southern Conference first round. 850. I just gave you that 857. So I'll give you one more instead. 843 UNLV New Mexico over some NBA for you NBA fans out there. Let's go with 572 under 236 San Antonio Sacramento. 569 over 227.5, 228 Portland, Oklahoma City. And I know we got a lot of guys out there that love props. Here's a couple props we got down on in the Spurs Sacramento game. Let's go with Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine under 5.5 rebounds, good to 150. Under 5.5 rebounds, Zach LaVine, good to minus 150. And then Chris Paul assists. Chris Paul assists under 7.5. Also good up to minus 150. So there's some college basketball, some NBA for you guys. Again, tournament time is here, so should be nothing but damage when the dust settles. I'm excited.
Well, Prez, first let's mention this. I did a free guide, 6 pages. If you ever had a question, how hard is it to beat a team 3 times? How hard is it to beat a team 3 times if you won the first 2 as a dog? What happens with teams with more rest? What happens in a bunch of conference tournament situations off a win as a dog and off losses as favorites? But I'm going to give you 2 very easy to use, one situation and one system. And then when you go and download the guide, you're going to have another 25 situations that is free on my homepage, wt.buzz/RM. First, Prez, I want to talk about AP top 5 teams. When you're an AP top 5 team, you are tuned in to become a national championship. Winning your conference tournament isn't important. And in fact, it doesn't mean much if you're going to be a number 1 or a number 2 seed. So when you look at AP top 5 teams, when they're playing their first game in the conference tournament with at least 3 days of rest, they have gone 62.5% against the spread. But if you have an AP top 5 team, they win their first game and then they're playing with no rest, those teams only 37.9%. There's a lot of coaches I heard talk, well, our priority is not to win the tournament, the conference tournament. The priority is to be the national championship on that first Monday in April. So system 1, look at AP top 5 teams in the first game of the tournament, fade them from game 2 on. And here's a situation that is a 64.3% fade. If you have a conference tournament team that won their opener as a dog, and now they have no rest and they're a dog of 5.5 or more against a rested foe, going all the way back to 2013, those teams are only 36% against the spread. So take a look and fade. Day 2 of the tournaments, when we have a team off a win as a dog, they're a dog of 5.5, and the opposition has 2 or more days rest, it's a fade spot. All of those situations free in the free guide. Well, I can agree with that, Prez, and I'm going to be a specific over in that time. Now, you look at Purdue. Purdue lost 4 in a row, and then they beat UCLA and Rutgers, 2 of the bottom teams in the Big Ten, and they beat them at home. So now they travel on the road. Their last road game against Michigan, they lost. Their last 3 road games they lost to Michigan State, and to Indiana. So now they're playing the final game of the regular season on the road. When I look at Purdue's defense, it is horrific. They come in with a number 50 defense as far as Ken Palm adjusted efficiency goes, but their raw numbers are number 222, and they've allowed over 50% shooting 5 of the last 9 games. That is something Matt Painter is just can't believe how bad it's going.
Yeah.
I look at Purdue. Purdue, Their defense has, again, not played well. They're 8-3 over under the last 11. They're the number 15th slowest team in the Big Ten and number 296 in the country. But they have a very efficient offense and they have poor defense. On the flip side, very few teams are as quick as Illinois. They're number 1 in the Big Ten in tempo, number 18 nationally. You look at their last few games, 81 points against Iowa, 93 points against Michigan. The Michigan game was on the road. They're back at home. Hot tempo, fast tempo takes care of slow tempo and a bad defense. Prez, I agree with your over, but I'm going to make it a specific over and go Illinois team total over 82 in this matchup.
There we go. Illinois team total over 82 for Ralph Michaels.
First, let's look at the rest situation. We have, a rest versus a no rest situation. As you said, the Knicks played the Lakers, and what a disappointing loss for them. They basically covered wire to wire and then end up losing by 4 in overtime. And they got there because Jalen Brunson scored 39 points and 10 assists. The problem is he got hurt in overtime, and he may not be playing tonight. If you look at the Knicks, with no rest, they're in a horrible situation where they've gone 2-7 against the spread, and they're only 1-8 overall their last 9 ATS games. They're also in a stretch in their schedule where they play 14 different venues in a row. That means they played some road games, 1 home game, back on the road, 1 home, back on the road. So that's a lot of traveling. Now in LA, you're staying at the same hotel. The situations are close. And I like the LA situation when teams don't travel and have a day off in the same hotel. But again, it's tough to back those teams playing with no rest in back-to-back. I look at the Clippers. They're 6-2 ATS versus teams with no rest, including 5-1 ATS at home. Problem is this, though. The Clippers are on as bad of a run as the Knicks are. We look at what the Clippers have done, and I am not able to lay 7.5 with a team that did beat Detroit, but prior to that, they lost 2, 4, 6, 8 straight against the spread. And that Detroit, they were actually a favorite. So I don't want to lay it with the Clippers. I don't want to take it with the Knicks. But I will say this. The Clippers are a horrific first-half team. They're 2-11 ATS in the first half at home. And so if I'm going to take anything out of this game, I believe New York playing back-to-back has some legs early, so I'll take them plus 4.5 first half. And while I called my Illinois team total a best bet, this is just a slight opinion on a night game because both teams to me are in fade situations.
Ty Jerome, over 1.5 made 3-pointers. He's become a real thing for Cleveland. Gone over in 8 out of the last 10 games. Last 10 games, he's shooting 4.7 3-point attempts, and he's shooting 53.2% from threes. And here's the key, Prez. They're playing the Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets are awful. They've lost 8 in a row. The last 3 games, they got blown out by Minnesota, 15 points, 18 points to Golden State. They lost by 13 points to the Washington Wizards. There is a chance this is a blowout, and if Cleveland rests their starters, Ty Jerome's going to get a lot of minutes in the fourth quarter. So even if he plays his normal minutes, I think he gets over. You get a blowout and the bench comes in, I think he gets some garbage time. Take his over 1.5 made threes. Let's do a violence parlay. We hit the violence parlay last week, so let's take 2 fights to not go the distance, put them together, and you get plus 121 on DraftKings. We're going to start with I think it's the first fight of the night. Jordan Santos and Ozzy Diaz will not go the distance. Prez, this is pretty easy. Ozzy Diaz has 8 amateur fights and 12 professional fights. Every single one of them have been finishes. This guy is kill or be killed. He's got energy in the first round, and if he doesn't get the knockout, he tends to get pretty tired. Santos, 3 straight decision wins, but before that, 4 finishes. He's durable. He's got good cardio. He put on a great performance on Contender Series as a plus 300 underdog against this young up-and-coming prospect. So I think Diaz either gets Jordan Santos out of there early or he gets tired and gets finished late. So we'll take that one, not go the distance. And then we'll take Jalen Turner and Ignacio Bahamondes will not go the distance. Both these guys coming off of 2 straight finishes. And Prez, if UFC fights were only 1 round, Jalen Turner would be the undisputed champ. Unfortunately, they're 3 rounds, and he gets really tired. These guys are going to put on a strike fest in the first round. There's going to be a lot of damage, and I expect Turner to make one of his bonehead decisions. He has bad fight IQ. It's cost him several fights. He's going to make a big mistake. and Bahamondes will get him out of there late, or Jalen Turner early. But either way, I think both these fights do not see the scorecards.
Early on in the pay-per-view event, Bobby Green's fighting Rufi. We opened this one $6, but we did take a pretty big 5-figure bet on Bobby Green, the underdog in this one. So you can see the price has kind of shifted his direction quite a bit after that one. And then our sharpest UFC bettor came in on the next fight and bet on Jalen Turner. I know he's coming off a loss, but looking for a bounce-back spot. He opened the favorite. The line flipped, and then our best UFC guy came in and bet Jalen Turner at plus 120. The co-main event, Rafael Fiziev, this team is going his direction. We opened that thing up closer to a pick. It's sitting now minus 165. And then in the main event, that's another awesome one that's currently sitting a pick. We opened this thing up a bit higher on Magomed Ankalaev. He was sitting around minus 140. And now it's, like I said, sitting around a pick. Expecting a lot of Alex Pereira money tomorrow. Obviously, a very popular fan favorite, so I'm expecting to see a lot of money on him tomorrow as well.
I'm going to take the Devils in this one. Listen, as good a season or as great a season as the Winnipeg Jets are having, Prez, the schedule has been very kind to them all season long. Not a lot of situations in which they've had to play back-to-backs. Not a lot of situations where they've had to play 3 games in 4 nights. And both are in play tonight because they were in Philadelphia last night, get a 4-1 win with Eric Comrie in goal. So it's Hellebuck in goal for them tonight. But listen to these numbers. When playing the 3rd game in 4 nights, the Winnipeg Jets this season, only 4 prior situations. They are 1-3 in those spots. And when playing a second of a back-to-back, which they've only done 6 times all season long, they are 1-5 in the second of a back-to-back. Those are not good numbers for this team and just shows you for the great season they're having, there are spots throughout the year where you could play against them and cash a ticket. I think this is the one where you cash a ticket with the Devils. It's an important game for the Devils as well, too. I don't use the do factor because that does not apply to betting, but they are playing much better at home. And I get it, Jack Hughes out of the lineup, but I think they're going to make some moves at the trade deadline, and we'll see if that comes to fruition today. But I like the Devils getting plus money at home. Problem with Detroit is that it's the wrong time, not only for a losing streak, it's the wrong time for your scoring to dry up. And it's one of the reasons why I liked Utah going into yesterday's game, because Utah had been playing well defensively and were making a playoff run of their own. This is a second of a back-to-back for Detroit. 7 prior instances this year where they have played a back-to-back game. The under is 5-1-1 in those games. They get Logan Thompson. They face Logan Thompson tonight. This guy is having a phenomenal year. 26-4, 232 goals against average, 918 save percentage. And Detroit's 16-11-1 to the under on the road, which is... as far as ROI goes, that's like plus 1351 ROI in betting Detroit unders on the road. They've only faced each other 1 time this year in Detroit. That game finished 4-2. There was 5 goals in the first period of that game, and it still stayed under the total because the total was 6.5 in that one. I like the Caps in this spot. And I'm not going to pronounce Detroit dead as of yet. Detroit has Washington tonight. They go to Ottawa, play a big game against Ottawa this weekend, and then return home and play the Sabres. They need to win at least 2 of 3. If they somehow found a way to win all 3 games, bang, they're right back in the playoff discussion, Prez. And Johnny does not give up those tickets. But they're 4-0-1 their last 5 games at home. And look at some of the teams that they've beaten. They beat the Toronto Maple Leafs. They beat the Colorado Avalanche. They beat the the Washington Capitals. So the freebies in those 4 wins that they got on home ice, they're playing well, playing a wild team that is still missing Kaprizov. And while it's going to be Gustafsson in goal tonight, he's allowed 3 or more goals in 5 of his last 7 games. So he's their number 1 goalie. But the Canucks, the time is now for them to make a playoff push. And they weren't winning games at home earlier in the season, but they are winning them now. And you got to win on home ice in order to make the playoffs. So I'll take the Canucks and I'll lay the $135 here.